أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، سيما بقية الله في الأرضين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري وأحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. So, Surah Yusuf, we're going to begin from the first ayah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Alif Lam Ra. These are the verses of the clear book. Alif Lam Ra. تلك آيات الكتاب المبين. Indeed, we have sent it down as an Arabic Quran that you might understand. إنا أنزلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون. We relate to you the best of stories in what we have revealed to you of this Quran, although you were, before it, among the unaware. نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص بما أوحينا إليك هذا القرآن وإن كنت من قبله لمن الغافلين. When Yusuf said to his father, "O my father, indeed I have seen in a dream 11 stars and the sun and the moon. I saw them prostrating to me." إذ قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبت إني رأيت 11 كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين. He said, "O my son, do not relate your vision to your brothers, or they will contrive against you a plan. Indeed, Satan to man is a manifest enemy." قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيد لك كيدا إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. By the way, guys, Surah Ayah 3 is going to be the verse of the day where Allah says, نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أَحْسَنَ الْقَصَصِ. We're going to relate to you the best of stories. Indeed, Surah Yusuf is the best of stories, or at least it's described as the best of narratives in the Holy Quran. And this is a question for all of us. We have to ask ourselves, why is this the best of stories? He doesn't say the Prophet Musa story or the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam story or the story of Isa or the story of any of the prophets, Yunus or you name them. This one is the best story. Ahsanul Qasas. Now, granted, if you go to what the Mufassirin say, some of the tafsirs actually say that this is not the best story per se, right? They say that this is just part and parcel, and this is one of the most the most good story, and so on and so forth. There are arguments about it, but the bottom line is this clause ahsanul qasas doesn't appear in any of the rest of the Quran. It appears right here. So today what we're going to be discussing is three things. Number one, major themes of monotheism, justice, prophethood, and morality in the Holy Quran. Number two, noticing narrative structure, stories, parables, and laws, i.e. the narrative theory, okay, behind the Quran. And this is a subject that is really, really exciting for me in particular. And then thirdly, we're going to learn about connecting to Imam Mahdi alayhi salam through these stories. Okay, so first and foremostly, we're going to be diving back into Surah Yusuf in a few moments. But before we do that, let's address this idea that the Quran has these major themes in it. Okay, so keep in mind the exercise that we did yesterday, which, by the way, was an absolutely fan-dabby-dozy, fantastic exercise. And it wasn't brilliant because I was doing it. It was brilliant because you guys were doing it. And it's really a huge blessing. And I hope that that exercise helped you to understand how you can extrapolate ideas, concepts, and major themes from the Holy Quran yourself. Yes, you have that ability. Now, one thing that I want to bring your attention to is that everybody is a unique individual. And because they are unique, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you as you are going to be able to extrapolate things from the Quran that nobody else is going to be able to extrapolate. Why and how? Well, it depends on you and your life, what you're going through, right? The journey that you've undertaken so far and the journey that yet lies ahead. All of that is going to help you to extrapolate major themes that impact your life. Okay, so in this sense, the Quran is a very individualistic book. All right, it is going to help you as an individual. But of course, there is a wider aspect to this entire discussion, and that is something which concerns all of society, indeed the entire world. Okay, so I want to go to the second point here, and that's about noticing narrative structure. Every person who goes to the Quran, they are going to derive ideas from it depending on what they feel. If you can hear noise in the background, that's my son. I think he just left. So, for example, if a mathematician goes to the Quran, he's going to look at it completely differently. So these verses that we just recited, for example, when Allah is telling us that Yusuf is saying that he saw رَأَيْتُ أَحَدَ عَشَرَ كَوْكَبًا, right? He saw 11 stars. He's going to be like, why 11? Why 11? Why not 12? Why not 10? Why 11? Right? And there's all these mathematical miracles that that person might derive from the Quran. If a biologist, for example, goes to the Quran, those verses which are talking about human creation and cattle and animals and all the different types of plants that are on the earth and Allah has created, those verses are going to speak to him far, far louder. If a philosopher goes to the Quran, he's going to derive philosophical rulings. When it comes to Surah Yusuf in particular, a historian, if he comes to this surah, he's going to derive something else. For example, one of the clear miracles of this surah in particular is that the king in this surah is actually referred to as Al-Aziz, the king. He's not referred to as the pharaoh. This is a historical miracle. Why? Because it's only recently that Egyptologists have realized that the pharaonic structure, right, didn't exist in the time of Yusuf. Here you have the Quran talking about the kingdom during the time of Yusuf, and he doesn't refer to that kingdom as a pharaonic system. He doesn't refer to the king as the pharaoh. Rather, he refers to him as the Aziz, the great one, the king of that land, right? So everybody is going to come to the Quran and they're going to extrapolate depending on the knowledge that Allah has given them and their particular field of expertise and their life. For me, and I'm going to say this because I'm so humble, I'm going to give you the best thing, all right? And that is narrative theory, all right? What's my field of expertise? Media studies, English literature. And in those fields of study, what do you learn? About narrative structure, about narrative theory. Okay, and I just want to very quickly share this idea with you that you learn from narrative theory. In narrative theory, when you're studying media studies, for any movie, cartoon, sitcom, drama, you name it, it doesn't matter. Every form of media has a particular structure that it follows. Every form of media. And the basic structure behind that is that there is an equilibrium, right? And then that equilibrium, which basically means an established format, right? That something happens to disrupt it and it becomes disrupted. So then you have phase two, which is a disruption of that equilibrium. And then you have phase three, which is a brand new equilibrium having been established. Now, that might sound very academic and all the rest of it. It basically means this, guys, that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to every story. Of course, when you go deeper into it, you'll realize that there's more to it than that. So, in the story of Yusuf, what is the narrative structure that you find? You find that at the beginning, Yusuf has a dream. Then he is told not to relate that dream to his brothers because they might get jealous and plot against him, right? And then the rest of the story takes place, and right at the end of the story, he becomes a kind of ruler in effect of Egypt. Okay, so you have this beautiful structure right there. This narrative theory, this idea of an equilibrium, a disruption of that equilibrium, and then a new equilibrium, is something that pervades not just the media, but your life. How? You're born, you live your life, and then you live your life in reality in the hereafter. And so you see that this narrative theory always takes place. The bad guys will always face justice, whether it's in this world or the next. The good guys will always be rewarded, whether it's in this world or the next. Okay. And it's very important for us to understand how the narrative theory that the Quran is pushing for us is a narrative that we have to understand through the lens of our own lives. I hope this is making sense. It will, inshallah, very shortly. Um, I want everybody to put their hands up. You guys know me. I'm a movie buff. Who's watched Kung Fu Panda? If you can put your hands up and let me know if you've seen the movie Kung Fu Panda. Brilliant. Okay, that's enough people who have seen Kung Fu Panda. How does Kung Fu Panda begin? All right, that might be a bit more of a difficult question, but if you remember, a dream, and in that dream, what does he see? Fat, useless panda. Yep. The fat, useless panda, he has a dream at the beginning of the movie. And in that dream, what does he see? The Furious Five are bowing to him. Wow. Doesn't that sound familiar? And then, if you look at the narrative structure of Kung Fu Panda, the other characters become jealous of him. They throw him down the proverbial well. And then, he has to go through this entire journey. And then finally, he becomes the Dragon Warrior. So, why was that movie such a success? I would argue because the narrative structure that they used is the story of Prophet Yusuf. And this is of particular interest for anybody who wants to go into writing, anybody who wants to do creative writing or scripting or any kind of work, inshallah, for the cause of Islam in the future, especially after the zuhur of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. We need to create our own media to push the message of Islam and fill the darkness of the world with the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one way that we're going to do that, inshallah, is through the media. Okay. So this is what you see. This perfect structure. And you have to understand, this is a structure that you yourself are going to embark upon throughout your life. Now, sorry. One thing that you have to understand is sometimes when you are reading the Quran, just yesterday, a young brother called me and he was saying how, he had a question to ask Allah. He opened the Quran and he didn't feel like he got his answer. And he did it about 3 times and he still didn't get his answer. Um, I would argue the reason that he didn't get his answer is because he did get his answer, but he wasn't able to extrapolate that answer. He wasn't able to understand what he is being told. And sometimes, by the way, the question that he was asking was about jinns. Ha! Jinns, right? Sometimes we have all of these mystical questions about dreams, about istikhara, about jinns and sorcery and witchcraft, all those things which are on the verge, the things which are actually interesting to us. But sometimes Allah wants to draw your attention to something which is far more important. But because we are so infatuated with the fantastical, we fail to see the point, which is glaringly obvious right in front of us. Now, in order to demonstrate this, inshallah, if you could all go to Surah Yusuf, verse number 36. Okay, so Surah Yusuf, verse number 36. We're going to recite this together, and I want you to see if you can notice what I'm talking about here. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us something else, but we are so obsessed with the mystical side of Islam, the mystical realities, right? Like jinns, like sorcery, like all of that, the dreams and the fantasies, those kinds of things, we miss the real point. Um, okay, so everybody there? Surah 12, verse 36. And there entered the prison with him 2 young men. One of them said, "Indeed, I have seen myself in a dream pressing wine." The other said, "Indeed, I have seen myself carrying upon my head some bread from which the birds are eating. Inform us of its interpretation. Indeed, we see you to be of those who do good." Okay, so they've had dreams. One of them sees that he's pressing wine, i.e., he's got grapes and he's pressing them into wine, right? Another one sees that he's got bread on his head, and the birds are landing on his head and eating the bread off his head. How strange. What kind of a weird dream is that? ودخل معه السجن فتيان قال أحدهما إني أراني أعصر خمرا وقال الآخر إني أراني أحمل فوق رأسي خبزا تأكل الطير منه نبئنا بتأويله إنا نراك من المحسنين. Remember, guys, when you're extrapolating, look at every word, every phrase, right? At this point, these prisoners knew that the person in front of them is one of those who are good. You're one of the good guys, they're basically saying. If I was translating this verse, that's how I would translate it. Surely we see you. You're definitely one of the good guys. Tell us what our dreams mean. So at this point, imagine, all right, we're already on verse 36. So we've been reading Surah Yusuf, and we've just got these fantastical dreams, right? And these dreams have been presented, and we at this point are desperate to know what is the interpretation of these dreams. Okay, now I'm going to tell you how I personally feel. I'm going to admit this today. As embarrassing as it might be, whenever I used to get to this point, I used to be like, just tell me the interpretation. They're asking such a good question. I want to know what the interpretation is. But what does Prophet Yusuf do? He said, "You will not receive food that is provided to you, except that I will inform you of its interpretation before it comes to you. That is from my Lord. That is from what my Lord has taught me. Indeed, I have left the religion of a people who do not believe in Allah, and they in the hereafter are disbelievers." ودخل معه السجن فتى no sorry قال لا يأتيكما طعام ترزقانه إلا نبأتكما بتأويله قبل أن يأتيكما ذلكما مما علمني ربي إني تركت ملة قوم لا يؤمنون بالله وهم بالآخرة هم كافرون. Sorry, my throat is a little bit dry. Guys, let me do a little bit of blasphemy here. I'm only doing it to show you the normal reaction, that the expected reaction from many people out there. I don't know how you guys felt, but this is how I felt. Yusuf, what are you talking about, mate? Like, I'm asking you to interpret my dream for me, and you're going off on a big tangent about how you can tell us about food before we even get it, and you're telling us that you've left the millah, right? You've left the qawm, you've left the people who don't believe in Allah, and these people are disbelievers in the hereafter. Why are you lecturing me? Just get to the point. Does he get to the point? And then he goes on, and I have followed the religion of my fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and it was not for us to associate anything with Allah. That is from the favor of Allah upon us and upon the people, but most of the people are not grateful. Notice the conscious state that you are going through when we're reading these verses. Even when I'm reading the English, even I'm losing track. I'm like, oh, come on, what is this? واتبعت ملة آبائي إبراهيم وإسحاق ويعقوب ما كان لنا أن نشرك بالله من شيء ذلك من فضل الله علينا وعلى الناس ولكن أكثر الناس لا يشكرون. Oh, my two companions, he goes on. As if that wasn't enough, he goes on. Oh, my two companions of prison, are separate lords better, or Allah, the one, the prevailing? يا صاحبي يا صاحبي السجن أأرباب متفرقون خير أم الله الواحد القهار. My God, he's still not getting to the point. You go on, and what does he say? You worship not besides him except mere names you have named them, you and your fathers, for which Allah has sent down no authority. Legislation is not but for Allah. Legislation is not but for Allah. Jesus Christ, he's going into politics now. These two companions of the prison, they must have been like exchanging glances, like, what is he going on about? We just want the interpretation of our dreams. He has commanded that you worship not except him. That is the correct religion. But most of the people do not know. Right? I won't read the Arabic. But then finally, the next verse, he says, O two companions of the prison, as for one of you, he will give drink to his master of wine. But as for the other, he will be crucified and the birds will eat from his head. The matter has been decreed about which you both inquire. Finally, he's given us the interpretation of the dream, right? And what's the interpretation of the dream? Because I know you're on the edges of your seats and you want to know what the interpretation is. The guy who was pressing grapes, he's saying that you are going to give your master, and you're going to give him wine to drink. And you, who's imagining that birds are going to eat bread off your head, you're going to be crucified. Oh my God, he's going to be crucified. Why? Because when you get crucified, the birds actually come, the crows, and they peck your eyes out, they peck your brains out, they eat pieces of your head. Yeah, so it's pretty gruesome. Another point that I just want to slide in here, Allah always speaks in a very beautified manner. He doesn't always tell you straight up what's actually happening. He wants you to figure it out yourself. Okay. But when I'm saying visualize the Quran, really, you do have to visualize it. Now, what's my point in highlighting all of this? Why am I showing you all of this? Because sometimes this phrase doesn't fit here, but allow me to use it. The devil is in the details. Okay. And just like you are feeling this urgency, like, why aren't you getting to the point? Oh, Yusuf, just interpret the dreams. You should know that you are just like those companions in the prison. Those companions in the prison were not believers in Prophet Yusuf, number one. How can we extrapolate that? Because he says, you are going to give wine to who? Your king, your Lord, your master. He doesn't say our Lord. He says, your master, the one that you serve. Okay. Um, the other thing that you need to extrapolate and understand is this is a highly political verse of the Quran, because verses of the Quran. He's actually pushing Islamic politics on these prisoners. And I want to point this out also. One of the best places to preach is in the prison systems. Why? Because it's in the prison systems where the oppressed class often end up because of crimes that they've committed, or it could be just crimes that they've committed against the king, right? And so they've become outlaws, not necessarily because they're thieves or criminals, but just because they've spoken out against the Daghut. Unfortunately, for Prophet Yusuf, even in this place, the prison, he must have preached everywhere. But when he gets to the prison, he preaches there. Even these prisoners don't have the intellectual capacity or readiness to understand the message of Tawheed, which a big part of that message is a political message. All right. So this is another thing that I face as a scholar. Every time I'm talking about the political dimensions of Islam, every time I'm talking about rising up against the Taghut, people are like, no, 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 no. Sheikh, please, just tell us some nice akhlaqi points. No, 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 no. Sheikh, please, just tell us something fantastical. Entertain us. Make us feel happy, right? And I get that. Okay, people want to know those sides of Islam, and I want to know about those sides of Islam as well because it's fascinating. However, the main point of Islam, because of this mentality that we have, could get brushed under the carpet. So let's just quickly go back and see what Prophet Yusuf is actually telling them. He says, first of all, okay, now we're going to come to the third point of the discussion, which is about understanding Imam Mahdi alayhi salam through the stories and the narrative structure. And we're going to do this by looking at these verses once again and see that actually it's telling us something to prepare us for that momentous moment in human history when the dhuhur happens, inshallah. Okay, so the first thing that he tells them before anything else is, you will not receive food that is provided for you, except that I will inform you of its interpretation before it comes to you. The first idea behind this is the idea that your rizq, which is coming to you, the Imam of the time knows it before it reaches you. Now, if you watch my recent video, or if in the previous session you remember, Imam Baqir alayhi salam explained that in another verse, the word food is actually talking about knowledge, right? I'm very sorry. There's a deeper spiritual meaning behind it. Knowledge, right? Food means knowledge. The Imam of the time, alayhi salam, knows the knowledge which is coming to you, and he can actually interpret it. He knows the ta'wil of it before it arrives to you. So herein you can see that he's first introducing himself to the people, these prisoners, these silly, silly prisoners who are very much like ourselves in this dunya being prisoners, right? We're prisoners of our own nafs, we're prisoners of our desires, we're prisoners of the Taghuti system all around us, right? He's telling them first and foremostly, recognize who I am. I'm not just one of those good guys. I'm the good guy. I'm the leader of all the good guys. Do they recognize him? Even though they're sitting right in front of him. They don't want anything more from him except the interpretation of their dreams. And this is the attitude that we often have towards Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, right? We have this romanticized image of what Imam Zaman is. We say, oh, I want this from you. I want that from you. Hold on. First, understand who he is. He'll give you those things. First, understand who he is. Then he goes on, that is from what my Lord has taught me. right? So he's bringing you back to Tawheed, making you understand that Allah is the ultimate controller of all the affairs of life, the universe, and everything. And then he says, indeed, I have left the religion. That's how it's translated. I've left the religion of people who do not believe in Allah. But if you look at the Arabic here, right, at the beginning, what do we recite? Qur'anan Arabiyan. We have revealed to you a clear Arabic Quran. So sometimes it is very important to go back to the Arabic, see what it's actually saying, right? And he's actually saying, I can't find it. Where did I put it? Yeah, yeah. Inni taraktu millata qawmin la yu'minun. I have left the millah, the millat, the millah. And then he says, millata qawm. So qawm means society, a people, a group of, a civilization. Millah actually refers to almost like nationality. It's talking about the national identity. I've left you guys. I've got nothing to do with you guys. I've left your religion. I'm not a part of you. Whoa, that should make your skins actually shudder if you think about it. If this is a reflection of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, then consider the possibility that everybody alive today, pretty much in this ummah that we call the Muslim ummah, and wider than that, the non-Muslims too, everybody in a way, in a sense, has actually abandoned the right path. Imam Mahdi himself, alayhi salam, could be in a prison right now for all you and me know. And they, in the hereafter, are disbelievers. And then he says, and I have followed the religion of my fathers, Ibrahim wa Ishaq wa Yaqub. He's reminding you of his lineage. One of the very important things about Imam Mahdi is his lineage. Don't be surprised if Imam Mahdi alayhi salam is right now in a prison and he's telling these companions in that prison, trying to remind them of who he is. But humanity, just like the brothers of Prophet Yusuf, forgot him. They've forgotten who Imam al-Zaman is. We're living in a very tragic universe right now. And it was not for us to associate anything with Allah. That is from the favor of Allah upon us and upon the people. But most people are not grateful. Most people are not grateful. The sooner we digest this idea, the better it will be for us. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ. Most people don't have that thankfulness in their hearts. And then he's crying out to them, oh, my two companions of prison, are separate lords better, or Allah, the one, the prevailing? These guys, you know what? They're thinking to themselves, but we do believe in one God ultimately. What is this guy talking about? You worship not besides him mere names that you have named. Dear brothers and sisters, you might think to yourself that you are muwahhids, you believe in one God, but the practical reality is we all believe in false idols today. False idols. We've submitted our lives to those false idols. We build our belief systems based on those false idols. For example, democracy. For example, liberalism. For example, communism. These are false names that you've just invented. They're false ideas. They don't come from God, for which Allah has sent down no authority. And then he makes it even clearer. Just in case you have doubt in what I'm saying, he says, legislation is only for Allah. Human beings are not allowed to legislate their own laws for themselves. And if you look around now at the state of the world, you'll understand why it's fallen into such a terrible state. Because we've created all these laws by ourselves, our national identities, our ideas of what is right and wrong have been defined not by the Quran, not by the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, not by the 124,000 prophets that Allah sent in the past. but rather just by our own whims and fancies and names that we have created of our own accord. So, to conclude, dear brothers and sisters, we have to understand that the Quran has a narrative structure, a narrative theory, through which we can extrapolate the main core themes and better understand Tawheed and Nabuwa and Idala, monotheism and prophethood and justice. But unless we are really reading between the lines and trying to understand not just rationalizing, not just extrapolating on those verses which speak to us, but actually going a little bit further and putting ourselves into the Quran, become those prisoners, go into the story. It's almost like that movie or those books, Never Ending Story, which I'm sure many of you watched when you were younger. The idea that when you're reading a book, you actually go warped into that book, you fall into it. You need to put yourself in the position of the characters of those books in order to find your place and understand what the Quran is really telling you. On that note, inshallah, I'd like to open up for Q&A. Please do not hold back. And of course, if you guys, in light of the exercise that we did yesterday, if you guys have more things that you would like to extrapolate, you are more than welcome, inshallah. So I'm going to see who's got their hands up. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or extrapolations of their own? Remember, guys, your comments actually do help other people as well. Sister Fatima Hatab. I'm going to have a sip of coffee while we wait for your microphone to be unlocked. I apologize for anybody who hasn't had iftar yet. Okay, can Sister Fatima Hatab's microphone be unlocked?
Am I on? Yes,
Yeah.
I think I'm unmuted. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, so
Wa
actually,
alaikum salam.
I have a question about yesterday when we were talking about the Hudr alayhi salam, and I wanted to relate that to what we talked 2 days ago. In regards to, like we said, we were talking about how the internal hujjah and how we need to simplify matters in our own heads, and how the justice and the truth are simple and we're just adding so many layers and dust to it.
Yeah.
And I want to ask, like, is there situations where we as individuals, like not ma'sumin, but just normal people, need to consider the layers, like in the case of Hodor, where he had like complications, like what he did might seem wrong at face value, but he did it for the right reasons.
So could you explain the question a little bit more?
Okay. So basically, where when does the truth, the reality, the justice stop being so simple, as we have mentioned? Like you gave the example of old lady, and like you're being told to kill someone who is innocent. So when do we know, like, is there a line where we as individuals, not ma'sumin, have to consider the complexity of the issues instead of just having the simple truth, like this is the rule and I follow it, and that's it?
Fantastic question. You know what? I'm going to just throw this at you, even though it might be a little bit shocking. But I want you. I mean, we're out of time pretty much, right? And I'm not talking about this session. I'm talking about humanity, because the war is very close, and so I need to just throw truths out there, and people just need to catch them. Okay, so. You won't understand justice or reality or what is right and wrong without the Imam of the time. It's impossible. It's impossible. Okay, good, right, and wrong are defined through the Imam of the time, full stop. And that's basically what it comes down to. And this is why the ahadith have emphasized to such a great extent. For example, "Man mata wa lam ya'rif imam zamanihi mata kamitatan jahiliya." One who dies and doesn't recognize the imam of their time dies the death of jahiliya. It's as if you never knew the imam. If you didn't know the imam, it's like you were never a Muslim. You were born in the time of jahiliyyah. Why is this so significant? Through the lens of the Quran, in the story of Prophet Musa and Hyder, Allah is basically telling you, you don't know what right and wrong is. Okay, you think you know, all right, and you use whatever laws I've taught you so far, but I haven't taught you all the laws. It's impossible for you to even know all the laws. All right. The only way Musa could understand that is by submitting to somebody who has more knowledge than him. And that was, in this case, Hazrat Khidr. Okay. So, and you could see the same thing happening in this surah that we've just recited. Why is it so central and important for Prophet Yusuf to explain to these people who are in front of him who he himself is? Sorry about that. Why is it so important for him? I was getting a bit excited about this subject. It's important for you to recognize the Imam, and that's why Prophet Yusuf is spending so much dedicated time. Look at me. I'm not just one of the good guys. Recognize me. I can tell you your food before it comes to you. I know your knowledge, your risk before it arrives to you. I am this close to you. Allah has given us this power. I'm from the lineage of Ibrahim and Yaqub and the rest of it. So why is it so important? You're simply not going to understand. So at a higher level, we have to recognize the Imam. It comes down to only that. And by the way, Sayyid, inshallah, is much more knowledgeable when it comes to the issue of Imam Zaman and Akhirul Zaman. So I would urge all of you to take full benefit from him. Ask whatever questions you need to ask. Don't let him go so easily, okay? But you really need to dig to find the Imam of the time. Now, at a lower level, before you arrive at that, you need to have conviction, number one, just like Prophet Musa had conviction. I'm going to carry on going until I find this guy. All right. I am not going to stop. All right. You need to have that conviction. And also, you need to still, have a connection to whatever laws, some sort of emotional connection, at least, to the laws that Allah has taught you so far. Okay. Because the ta'wil is going to come to you once you recognize the Imam of the time. So you might see him do something and you'll be like, huh? That defies everything that I have known to be true or right or just. How can you do that? Right? And that's an innocent, normal reaction. All right. So it's a matter of knowing the Imam of your time. Unless you know him, nothing is going to make sense in the end. That might sound really dreary, but there's the reality behind it. And that's why I just wanted to throw that out there. And inshallah, Sayyid can elaborate more on that. But thank you for your question. If we could unlock Sister Taqiyya, Auntie Taqiyya.
Hello? Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Oh, wa alaikum salam, brother.
Could you please remind us how to do tayammum?
Yeah, you're getting a bit of feedback. Please call me Bhaijan.
Could you please remind us how to do tayammum?
Okay, this is how you do tayammum, guys. All right, you find dust. All right, you find dust or rocks, and you can only do it when you don't have access to water, or if you're sick, for example, you go like this. Bang! You put both your hands down. Then you go like this to shake off any excess dust. Then what you do, your head, you go all the way down to the bridge of your nose. Okay? You don't have to do your whole face. People think that you have to go like that. No. Bang. Down. You do your forehead. Okay, so you're going to start from the bottom of your palms, from the hairline. You're going to go all the way down like that to the bridge of your nose. Done. All right? Bang. Right hand first, then bang. You have now done tayammum. That's it. Okay, don't let anybody confuse you, okay? Because some people will be like, oh, you'll be asking so many questions, you'll just confuse yourself. Where does the beginning begin? Some people, I don't understand. You're going to go like this, and then does this Quran? No. Oh, do I have to do it from up here? No, no. Just, okay, watch very carefully. Remember it. Don't ask any more questions about it, and just stick to this. Bang, into the dust. Done. Okay, if we can go to Sayyidah Mahdi's question. It was a good question, by the way. we
Salaam
we act
alaikum,
like
Sheikh.
bunny
Can you hear
Israelis
me?
sometimes. Yeah. Wa alaikum salam, dear sister. Bismillah.
Yes, Sheikh. I had the question that over here in the ayah, Hazrat Yusuf mentioned like being on the deen of his forefathers. But in so many other ayahs in the Quran, God is forbidding, like not forbidding, but criticizing the mushrikeen and kafirin on being on the deen of their forefathers. Like, isn't that a bit ironic? Like, why do they need to? Why are the prophets referring to their forefathers when Quran is like saying no? Why are to the kafirin that no? Why are you on the deen of your forefathers?
It's a very good question, actually, and I'm glad that you're making those comparisons. So, in those other verses, Allah says, "Why are they following? They're just following the deen of their forefathers, right? And this is a bad thing." Um, but and sometimes it actually points out to you they're following their forefathers, even though their forefathers didn't know anything and they themselves were misguided. Okay, so that's the key difference. These forefathers are the exalted forefathers, the ones who did know the right path, and everybody pretty much recognizes them as those who understood and recognized the right path and guided towards it. Okay, so following your forefathers is not a bad thing if they were guided, if they were prophets, if they were imams, alayhimus salam, right? Following your forefathers is a terrible thing if, for example, you your forefathers were like Genghis Khan, right? In that case, you'd be like, you just be unnecessarily proud, like, yeah, Genghis Khan, he took over the whole world. He had the biggest continuous land empire throughout history. Yeah, that's just arrogant, and there's nothing really to be proud of. But then there's other times where you can say, I've actually come from the lineage of the prophets Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In such cases, that is an honorable thing to do, to recognize that I've come from that lineage, and the responsibility now on my shoulders is far, far greater, and I should therefore fulfill that. Does that answer your question, sister?
Yes, Sheikh.
Inshallah,
Jazakumullah.
I pray that it does. Okay. All right, brilliant. We'll take one more question today. We weren't able to take a question. Today we can compensate.
Salam, Sheikh. Can you hear me?
Wa alaikum. Oh, is this Brother Khalifa? Okay. Brother Khalifa, and then we'll go to Carl Williams after that. Sorry. Yeah, I can hear you.
A lot of people use the verse about the Quran that has come in Arabic, an Arabic Quran, to justify
Yep.
Arab supremacism and Arab nationalism.
Yeah.
How should we deal with them? Like, should we see the Arab people as more important than us, than the Ajam, or should we like disrespect their history and them because they've made a lot of crimes, including the massacre in Ashura?
It's a very good question.
Basically, they also poisoned Rasulullah, and
Yeah,
and a lot of bad people came from there. Very bad
yeah,
people.
no, it's actually a fantastic question. There's so much that could be said about this, so I'm gonna throw some points out there. and it's up to you to actually build your your strategy when it comes to this, especially your emotional strategy, because you expect the Arabs, for example, to be the upholders of Islam, whereas unfortunately they're actually some of the worst people, especially if you look at the Saudi regime. Now, how do you reconcile that? You have to understand that the message and the prophethood and the books almost always get sent to the worst people. So it's not a privilege for you that the Quran was revealed to you. It's actually a responsibility. And this Arab supremacy is exactly what Islam came to destroy. And this is a recurring theme throughout history. If you look at the whole story of Bani Israel, those stories don't relate to Israel today. All right, it's got nothing to do with them. They're not going to read it per se. It's a story for us. It's a warning for us, wherein Allah is actually saying, look, you were God's chosen people. Why? Because we raised among you imams. We gave you the prophets. Most of the common prophets that we know of, they were sent to Bani Israel. We gave you the Torah. We gave you the Injil. Why? You're the worst people. The worst people are the ones who get these things, all right? Because you're the ones who need it the most. It's like if you have a class full of children, there's one kid who is the worst, the most worst behaved one. He is the one who needs to be sat down and be given a rule book. Here's the 10 commandments. Don't kill people. It's bad. It's naughty. I mean, really, how bad must humanity be for it to be, it needs to be told that killing people is bad? I mean, think about that for a moment, right? There's actually a hadith about the Arabs. In fact, there's many hadith about the Arabs, but one of them I read just recently, and I'm paraphrasing this, so bear with me on that. But it said that if Allah had sent Islam or the Quran to any other nation on earth, everybody would have accepted Islam except the Arabs. Okay? So these are really the most arrogant people. And that is a very big reality. Another thing that I've noticed among Shia, for example, is Iraqis, for example, or even Iranians, right? They'll be like, oh, look, we've got Imam Rida alayhi salam, right? Good. We've got Imam Ali alayhi salam. And they're talking about the shrines. He is in our country. Yes, because you people killed them. We've got Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Karbala, we've got the shrine of Hazrat Abbas because you people killed them. All right. And I don't know why this doesn't occur to people. Hello. All right. It shouldn't be, it is at the end of the day, it is going to give you pride, but it shouldn't give you arrogance. It should make you really reflect. Why were we given all of these things? There must be a reason behind it. Is it a good reason? Right? And also, there's many ahadith, and I hope this has been enough, but just to give you one very quick one, Imam Ali alayhi salam, when he's addressing the Arabs, what does he say? One of them pointed to a foreigner, and I believe it was an Iranian at that time, right? The Persians. He said, "Look at these." He said some racist slur, like they're not even Arabs. We're better than them. Imam Ali alayhi salam pointed and he said, surely I trust those people far more than I trust you. And a time will come where these people, i.e., the Persians, the foreigners, they will draw the sword against you to bring you back to the deen while you will have strayed far from the deen. Okay? So these such a hadith certainly do exist. And one way that you can understand the mentality, especially if you live in the Western world, this example will really help you to understand the Arabs. They're the Vikings. How do you think of the Vikings, right? They were like these mindless guys. They would go out raiding and they had really eloquent poetry about their forefathers. And they would say, I am from such and such lineage and raw, we're going to go and ravage and, pillage everywhere. That was the Arabs. All right. So if Islam had been revealed to the Western world, it probably would have been the Vikings, for example, right? But yeah, I hope that gives you some food for thought, inshallah. Very quickly, because I didn't take his question yesterday and I feel really guilty for that. Brother Kyle Williams, if we could take his question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm just hope I don't take too much time, but I just wanted to share the interpretation that I thought of that you brought up yesterday. Yesterday I just had a little bit to say, and today I've kind of obsessed over it, and I've thought about it a lot. So I'll try to make it short though. So the meaning.
Alhamdulillah.
The meaning of the two C's, I've taken a tidbit from I've heard a lot of commentary on this, and I've taken a tidbit from a Sunni scholar named Imran Hussein, and he says that the C's, the meaning is the inner knowledge and the outer knowledge, the knowledge that comes from within, and then the outer knowledge, of course, like science and stuff. And as humanity goes, passes through time, they accumulate this knowledge. And I've thought about this verse a lot actually, and there was a question I've always had that I couldn't get past to understand it further. And yesterday, Sister Fatima Hatab's explanation kind of, I feel like I interpreted it. She said that the shaitan made the like searching for knowledge is like you need sustenance, and that the shaitan lost the shaitan in a way took their sustenance. But the question I've always had is, like, why did Musa alayhi salam, why did he take the fish? Because it says that for lunch, but then it also says when he tells them that it found its way, he said that that's what we were looking for. So did he take it as something to signal the Majma Bahrain to know when he got to the place, or did he take it for lunch? So yesterday when she said that, that kind of solved that question for me. Is that when they took it as for the guide, that was the intent, but the shaitan made them continue on, even though they found what they wanted, they continued on. And so Musa alayhi salam maybe said, Allah's going to find another way. So he was going to eat it, but then when they returned, where they were going was ascending, in a sense, to where they didn't need sustenance. So that he did take their sustenance, because if they would have known, if they would have recognized that place, they were going to go to another plane or what have you, that they wouldn't have need that worldly sustenance. And the fish is, and this came today, actually. Yesterday I was confused about it, but today I read everything I wanted to know about the connection between the Mahdi alayhi salam and Isa, the Messiah alayhi salam. And so I think that, like, the fish is what reminded me of was a word from the Bible, Shiloh. That is, it says in the Bible, Yaqub alayhi salam says to his children, the scepter will not depart from Judah until Shiloh comes. And the Jews, they say that it's the same, but I think it's not the same. Like, Shiloh is it's the time period. So in a sense, that was the time period. And according to this stuff I read today on this Telegram channel about the connection between the Messiah and the Mahdi alayhi salam, is that the Messiah comes first and defeats the Dajjal. And so the fish is the beginning. Like the Shiloh is like a time period. It's nobody does anything for that, but it just comes. But the Messiah has to be, it depends on a lot of things that other people do. So and then the ship is like before everything is made clear that, like, this is coming, a certain number of people are going to be sort of isolated, and they're going to be free of, like, out of the reign of the Dajjal. And the boy, killing the boy, is like we say that 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 everyone is born a Muslim, but as you develop, you have to embrace religion to stay on that orientation. And so this is kind of that is the Dajjal saying that, and that he's killed is like, it's not him being killed physically, but is that he has no connection to that like the very basic Islam that everyone's born with. And one more, I'm almost done. But the Yatimain, the two boys, the Jews in their tradition say that the Messiah actually comes as two persons. There's a Messiah bin Yusuf and a Messiah bin Yehuda. A Messiah from the line of Joseph alayhi salam, and a Messiah from Judah. And there's a lot about that, especially related to another verse in the Quran where Sulaiman alayhi salam, he says that give me a kingdom that was not befitting for anyone else. But so anyway, so that's the two Yatimain that is the Messiah. I hope that sort of mad gaggle of thoughts made sense.
Yeah, it didn't make sense at all. But I'm really glad that you shared it, because it shows that you're really digging. And by the way, Sheikh Imran Hussein, he makes some really good connections sometimes. And also your point about the fish and it relating to a certain time period, it reminded me of the kind of the dawning of the age of Aquarius and things like that. So really, really love the extrapolations that you have done, because you have actually raised more questions than you have answered. And when you do that, eventually when those questions get answered, you arrive at even bigger truths. And you're doing exactly what I think that everybody should be doing, which is really digging and going down not just one rabbit hole, but many rabbit holes, because eventually all of these disjointed points, narratives, and characters are all going to be connected. All star and this. Eventually, you're going to connect all those dots, and it's going to click for you, inshallah, and for all of us. And we're going to recognize some of the higher realities. I would like to just very quickly point out a book. There is a secret that I want to share with you, but I can't share it today, inshallah, because I've run out of time. But I want to see, give you the opportunity to dig it up yourself. If you go to the book Hayat al-Qulub, the life of the hearts, and then you go to the section of Al-Khidr, and there's a section there on Dhul Qarnayn also, but a lot of the hints and clues are right there. So it's Hayat al-Qulub, and it's called, the translation is life of the hearts, right? So the living hearts, or the life of the hearts, right? So there's lots of hadith of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and you'll actually be able to find a lot more of these secrets, inshallah, if you go to that book. Thank you so much. If we can all end, inshallah, and recite a loud and boisterous salawat for Brother Kyle and his family. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sorry, you're true, but we're not going to have time to take your question. I've already overdone my time a lot, and we're going to go for a short break, and then we're going to go to our dear Sayyid, inshallah. As I said, take full advantage of him while you have him, and inshallah, next session, I'll try to address these secrets a little bit more. God bless all of you, and wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.